And start a
Sounds good.
recording. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Mike. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Welcome back, everyone, to the Gray Paper Podcast. I'm Mike Carlson with Gray Paper Legal.
And I'm Karen Westwood, Director of the Hennepin County Law Library.
This is our special at-home version of the Gray Paper Pod. We'll we have power outages and all manner of technical issues.
Yes, so pardon me if I'm a little wavery here. I'm on my phone.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and we'll have to make it short today. But I did want to catch up with you, find out what was the most interesting legal research question of the week for you this week, Karen.
Well, this week I got to thinking more about law review articles because one of our attorney patrons was looking for information on how to teach legal writing to people who have learning disabilities, dyslexia, and things like that. And were there any sort of techniques or reports on how to do that most effectively? Could not find much, but it led me to law review searches, which I don't do very often. Mike, do you find law reviews useful much in your research?
I use them still. It is. I was talking to a student from Mitchell a while ago, and it was funny because they share the memes of how nobody reads law review articles anymore and how useless they are, even though they spend a load of time working on them. You know, and I said, don't despair. I actually still use them because a lot of the research I do requires a quick little background look at the area of law that I may be completely unfamiliar with. And that's kind of a nice service to have, especially if I've been away from that practice area for a little while.
Right.
You know, I want to know, oh, right, there was that case, Supreme Court, you know, even if it was a well-known, broadly known thing, I find that background quite valuable, actually.
Yes, that's what I use them for, is not so much for the interesting proposition that the article is making, but for that first third of the article that reviews the area of law. And sometimes someone is asking, something fairly fundamental about a particular concept, and a law review article can be pretty good, I think, at getting to that. But as being practice oriented, working with practitioners, we don't use law review articles as often as when I was in an academic law library, for instance.
Yeah, and I'll reach out to your law library frequently for things like ALRs and American jurisprudence articles.
Yep.
Which are behind a paywall, and because I have a subscription to the Hennepin County Law Library, I can knock that off my Westlaw, and I'll reach out for, and I still use that stuff. You know, I like American jurisprudence and corpus juris secundum, the libraries, Donnell's. Those are all super valuable to me still.
Yes, and we like then ALRs and AmJur trials and what used to be Shepard's causes of action, those books that just lay out the whole process from a case soup to nuts can be really good.
If you've been in practice for decades in a particular practice area, that stuff may seem superfluous or for your staff or for other folks, but for me, I love them. It's easy, get up to speed, kind of quick review of key moments and principles, cases, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting from a law library perspective, like who we consider our more experienced researchers, and certainly attorneys who've been around for a while, they'll send a request in and then suggest the place to look. Is there a Donnell's entry on this? Can you find me an ALR on this? Because they recognize the value of those types of materials.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if you're not in a situation where you can walk down the hall and get a quick review from someone who knows. And even if you can, right? I mean, you operate with the blinders on, I think, quite often. So I think there's a benefit to having a staffer or somebody like me or a librarian, come in grabbing that stuff.
Well, and definitely younger attorneys sometimes don't want to advertise what they don't know, so they don't really want to walk down the hall.
That's right.
And say, well, like,
That's right.
what is a contract again?
Yeah, right. How did you do that?
So that was my kind of interesting sort of thought this week. What came up for you, Mike?
I had an interesting research question this week about it was an interpretation of language in a contract. And what was interesting about it for me, it was really the first time I wish I had access to more of the LLM tools, the ChatGPT enabled, AI enabled tools. And I use some of the, and maybe I should share the screen too. I'd be interested to see what you think about this strategy. Let me grab the. Let me grab my Westlaw here because of the nature of the search. The language could have come out any number of ways, right? It's not necessarily that particular phrase that I was interested in searching. I was interested in searching phrases like this, right? So I thought, a keyword search doesn't quite get us there, and I'm not sure exactly what the right tool is. I thought maybe the AI enabled tool might be a good way to go about it because it would find similar language. It would more likely find language like that. But you're still stuck in a situation where, although you're not thinking about keywords, you have to rephrase the question and the cases that come up. If you're looking for cases, you're still getting the same results you would even with the basic keyword search I found. So it was interesting to me, and for this on Westlaw, which is kind of where I live most of my day, I'll often do like a words and phrases search. Is that something? Do they still print the words and phrases text?
They do. They do still print it. We may still get it in print. I can't remember because the librarians are very fond of it, and we like to use it in print.
And I use the WP field restrictor on Westlaw. This is something that's I think almost exclusively for cases. I think it might search statutes as well. But typically, if a case is defined a particular term, the Westlaw editors will add the words and phrases field to it. So when you jump into the case, you'll see. So this is something that I'll use, and as you can see, even if it's a phrase like lost volume seller, it still appears. So what I ended up doing for a number of these results was just throwing in one of the terms in the phrase that they were using, and I got good results that way. But you can see here's a case that has defined this particular phrase. Super helpful tool. And then the other thing that I did was to run a search like this, construction and operation. Now, I'm not sure how, this is just something that I've learned over time, that the common phrasing in the topic field, so this stuff over here, the phrasing in the key numbers and the headers or the headings for the key numbers, they're common. So anytime there's a case that's defining how you interpret a lease or a mortgage or a contract or a statute, typically has either construction or construction and operation.
I see.
So
sure.
I just use that broadly because in this case, and as you know, sometimes the interpretation of a statute and the principles that you use there are the same principles that you use for interpreting a contract. So sure. It's good just to keep it broad as possible, and then maybe within the same paragraph, the particular term that or one of the terms that were interesting or a variation of the phrase. And that's how I ended up doing it. I attended more ChatGPT programming this week, and there I got 0, but let's do an synopsis digest search. I don't remember what I did. It was only 4 days ago that I did this.
Yeah. Mike, back to words and phrases. I remember talking about that with another librarian, and he's like, I just don't get it. Why use words and phrases when you can keyword search? And I was saying, because it's this editorial enhancement that, so can you explain more why words and phrases is more than just, it isn't just the phrase appearing in the document, it's that the court has said at some point what we mean by this, or this is defined as that. And it takes the editors, right, to catch those. Am I recalling this correctly, Mike? Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's because it's a human being, and this is something I think that probably the AI tools could improve, right?
I'm thinking, and could do the first cut or something on this. Yeah,
for sure. Traditionally, this has been a humans plus machines practice at Westlaw, the creation of the head notes. The words and phrases field only appears in a head note, right? It's not you'll see it in the case, of course, but that it's a search that you're performing in the head notes with the words and phrases.
Even though you don't
but it means
designate
that an editor has read it and read the case and said, oh, this is a case that specifically defined this particular phrase. We're going to isolate that and make it available for searching.
We had a question this week, actually, that a questioner requested us to check words and phrases for the phrase same or similar. Well, honestly, that's defined many, many ways in many different contexts. That was difficult to drill down to anything relevant. But still, it gave us a corpus to begin with to try to drill down in.
It's usually on Westlaw too, the second division in the taxonomy. So 95 is contracts, 95.2 is construction and operation. I think 361 is statutes. 361 Roman 2 is construction and operation. But you'll find this phrasing in leases, mortgages, as I say, and elsewhere in the document.
The other one, of course, we see always is in general.
Yes.
Right. Most topics start with that in general.
And I have run searches, means defined, or, with the root expander. I have done that with a standard keywords, but generally I find I get much better luck running this broad type of search using the key numbers as a framework for getting that done. But
if you get Westlaw, a lot of what you're paying for is that key number system. So it makes sense to make use of it.
To use it, it does.
Yeah.
And not saying that the large language models are bad. I think they're excellent, right? There's certainly things out there that you wouldn't find, except that the processing is so good. But with case law, this, we're not talking about huge unstructured data here. We've talked about this a lot. We have human beings actually reviewing the cases. Although there are a lot of cases that it's not, like I always compare it to the public comments to a proposed rule, where it's just messy. You don't know who it came from, when it was submitted, whether or not it's a bot even, or whether it's a human being, where or when it came from. So there are definitely places still where I absolutely want to use the large language models and these really cool new tools to extract things from big unstructured data. But so far for case law research, I just have had better luck still using the key number system, which I thought was an interesting thing. Now,
well, yes, and maybe it speaks to how having structured data can be helpful.
Right. Yes. That's exactly right. Right. Maybe we can. Maybe we should be requiring some structure to the comments. Fill out a form, for God's sake.
Yes, that's right.
But then you need like a blue check mark. You need verification, which, as we know now, is kind of a challenging.
That's right. Hard to monitor that.
Yeah. That's a big technical challenge that the free market can't seem to handle it. I'm not sure the government is going to do it either. So that was my research question of the week. Anything else? I know you've got a super busy morning, Karen.
Yeah.
What else is happening for you this week, next week?
This week, next week, not too much. We already talked about the bar memorial that's going on a bit later this morning at the government center.
Yep.
Next Friday, for our monthly CLE, the law library has a couple of folks from the Hennepin County Elections Office talking about the Restore the Vote legislation that was passed and signed this year, so that felons, ex-felons, but however we speak of people who are no longer incarcerated but may still, be under DOC control on paper, as they call it, are now eligible to vote. So the only people not eligible to vote are convicted inmates in correctional facilities. So I think you could always vote in jail if you were pre-trial. But for many years, as you know, in Minnesota, you could be on probation for 10, 15, 20 years and not be able to vote because of that hanging over your head. And that has changed. I think it might be a short CLE because now it seems so much simpler to administer, voting. If you have someone standing in front of you, they are not in jail.
Yeah, that's right.
So it could kind of remove some of that.
What's your guess? Incarcerated or not?
Exactly. But I think it'll be really interesting to hear. Many years this legislation was in front of the legislature and didn't pass, and I'm sure they have some thoughts as to how that will impact turnout and so forth. So I'm looking forward to it. That's next week online, 12:15 on Friday.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it.
And I'm also looking forward, Mike, next week we're going to be broadcasting from U of M. Yes,
live from the Minnesota Association of Law Librarians, MALL.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I think we're going to do some form of Stump the Chumps, but we're going to meet next week about how we talk about the most interesting legal research question of the week in front of a live audience.
Yes. A live audience of
librarians, who know their shit, right? That's going to be,
Pressure's on, Mike.
Stump. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again so much. You've got multiple things going on this morning, I know, so I really appreciate you joining us this morning, Karen. I hope you have a
my pleasure, Mike.
Great weekend.
Yep. Have a good weekend. We'll catch you next week.
Take it easy.
Yep. Thanks.
Bye.